What is consciousness? This question has confounded philosophers from the earliest stages of our civilization. Scientists have analyzed and scrutinized the cell in meticulous detail, but nothing has popped out so far which can be identified as the source of consciousness. We today have a very murky and shallow understanding of what precisely constitutes consciousness. In the name of science, some have been placing mirrors in front of dolphins and chimpanzees, believing self-recognition to be a key to understanding consciousness. And others have been studying electrical signals from our nervous system, hoping to discover clues to consciousness. The reality is that consciousness has several distinct expressions, and what we consider to be consciousness today, which is the cognitive consciousness, is only the surface layer. There's a whole lot more going on beneath the surface on several levels, all the way down to the stuff of matter itself. So we need to understand consciousness from an entirely different perspective. In fact, once we understand consciousness, we'll realize that it is so pervasive that if it were to be removed, the entire universe would instantly collapse. So what precisely is consciousness? At the most fundamental level, consciousness is a referential attribute, the ability of any two points to relate or refer to each other in some way requires consciousness. So how did consciousness come to exist in the first place? Contrary to general assumption, consciousness is not a byproduct of our biology. It is not something that is generated within us. Consciousness has its roots in awareness, which is the fundamental feature within singularity itself. So what then is singularity? Singularity is the cosmic womb. It is the higher dimensional field within which our universe of three-dimensional space came into existence at the Big Bang, and within which it will continue to expand for the entire duration of its existence. Just the way a three-dimensional space envelopes a two-dimensional flat space at every point, even though someone living in flatland would never see the third dimension, in exactly the same way, we will not be able to see the higher dimensional singularity, even though it envelopes us through every point in space. Awareness is the inherent and the dominant feature within singularity. However, since singularity exists within a higher dimensional and structureless domain, it functions in a highly unified state. From there, it flows through all aspects of the universe, be it matter or life. Consciousness is a structured form of awareness. Now, what unification means within a higher dimensional context is that singularity literally resides in an all-knowing, all-connected, omniscient state. Quite literally what a religious person would refer to as a godlike state. And here is the problem within singularity. Even though it resides in an all-knowing, omniscient state, being structureless, it has no idea how it knows or that it knows. Structures provide form, definition, and ultimately knowledge. So singularity set out on a quest for self-discovery by creating structured universes in lower dimensional configurations, one after another, like our universe with a three-dimensional space. And then it processes each universe by streaming awareness through it. Awareness streams through every integrated system in the universe, from the atom to the life form, the way electricity flows through a circuit. Consciousness is a structured form of awareness. Awareness from singularity, processed through structures, becomes consciousness. And also, there is such a thing as matter consciousness, which plays a vital role in maintaining the continuity of the universe from one moment to the next. At the Big Bang, singularity bifurcates into the two substances that comprise the universe, which are matter and space. This chapter, Integrated Systems, explains how all aspects of the universe, from the atom to the photon to the life form to space itself, are plugged into this cosmic wall socket, which is, of course, singularity. Awareness streams through all these substances, revealing different kinds of consciousness, each interpreting awareness in their own unique way. What we generally regard to be consciousness, which is the cognitive stuff, is just one form of consciousness. Cognitive consciousness is a very evolved form of consciousness, and it rests on the surface of several layers of other forms of consciousness, all the way back to the stuff of matter itself. The roots of our consciousness in life, believe it or not, lies in the stuff of matter consciousness. When awareness from singularity streams through matter, it becomes matter consciousness. Matter consciousness bifurcates into registration consciousness and temporal consciousness. Now, in the fractal bifurcations model, the entire universe exists one moment at a time. Each moment exists for one Planck moment, which is around a trillionth of a second. And that moment disappears, the next moment comes in, and one after another after another. So it's a string of single moments that make up the universe. So in a ceaselessly expanding and evolving universe, registration consciousness plays the vital role of registering the specifications of each particle at each Planck moment. And then temporal consciousness takes over, and it transferring all of that information to the next Planck moment, and so on and so on and so on. Together, these two forms of matter consciousness preserves the continuity of the universe from one moment to the next and the next. These two fundamental forms of consciousness established in matter become the foundation upon which life consciousness builds after life emerges. Awareness streaming through the structureless domain of space expresses itself as energetic consciousness, and that is a very highly integrated form of consciousness. It is this integrated consciousness within space that makes the entirety of space function as a single entity. It is for this reason that quantum particles, like photons, can instantly correspond with each other even if they are separated to the ends of the universe, a phenomenon well known in physics as quantum non-locality. This energetic consciousness also plays a crucial role in our lives as well. It is this integrated form of consciousness that runs our autonomic nervous system, those trillions of electrochemical interactions which are occurring within our body at every moment and keeping us alive. That is something that our cognitive consciousness could never achieve. All such integrated systems within the universe, whether it's space, the atom, or the life form, uses this kind of integrated energetic consciousness to make it function as a single integrated entity. consciousness becomes much more exciting after life emerges. That is the subject of the following book subtitled The Universe of Life. But here are a few brief insights from that book. After life appears, consciousness shifts to an activated state. That activation compels the organism to evolve from one stage to the next. According to this theory, fractal bifurcations, the entire evolutionary journey from first life to the present has been about a systematic transformation of consciousness from one stage to the next. All the animals and all the species, both living and extinct, represented distinct niches of consciousness along this transformative journey. Consciousness flows through all integrated systems in the universe the same way electricity flows through a circuit. Just as the same electricity flowing through various assortments of lamps radiates distinct kinds of light, in a similar manner, the same awareness flowing through different animals and different species expresses itself as distinct forms of consciousness. The biological form of an organism is no more than a biotemplate, which lights up with consciousness when awareness streams through it, in exactly the same way a lamp lights up when electricity flows through it. So a giraffe or a lion or a butterfly or a human template each expresses the same awareness in distinct ways according to its biotemplate. This understanding that consciousness is not generated within our biology has been the greatest stumbling block for our sciences trying to understand consciousness. The entire evolutionary transformation from first life onward has actually been all about a systematic transformation of the biotemplate of the animal from one stage to the next, which in turn expresses consciousness in distinct ways. In this first book, The Sentient Universe, I explain the origin of consciousness, its vital role in matter, and how it morphs and emerges into life. You can find many more details in these chapters in the book. I will be presenting another video titled The Evolution of Consciousness, where I will introduce a completely new way of understanding life consciousness, which also explains why the process of evolution is embedded within the very architecture of life. In other words, if life exists anywhere in the universe, it is compelled to evolve. The theory also explains where this amazing evolutionary transformation that we find on planet Earth is eventually taking us all. And it is the same destination for life anywhere in the universe, each arriving at the same destination along their own unique path. The video will also explain how consciousness informs our mind. The mind is actually a complex procedure with an intricate series of connections that have to occur in split seconds to create that seamless thought process. Our mind has to seamlessly and continuously integrate the present circumstance with past memories. That is because our memories are not held within our biological structures. They are held within the domain of higher dimensional singularity that envelops our universe through every point in space. Now, if you think that is far-fetched, then I would refer you to a well-known scientific experiment called the double-slit experiment, where a quantum particle is able to recall events from the past. And that past is within the domain of singularity. I discussed this quantum enigma in another video titled Quantum Mechanics is Easy to Understand. And I would strongly recommend my other video titled The Origin of Life, which will add another layer of understanding to the nature of consciousness. Once you understand the pervasive role of consciousness in matter, in space, and in life, then you will have to agree what the theory of fractal bifurcations asserts, that consciousness is truly the soul of the universe.